And a lot of the guys that were attending that event were like, man, Creator is so cool. Like, how do you not cheer for that guy? You don't get to see that kind of emotion that often early in the tournament from Korean players. But I digress. It is time to finally kick off our final best of 5 of another long day of StarCraft. In the bottom left side, we are looking at one of the most successful StarCraft 2 players of all time. That is, without a shadow of a doubt, Dragon Phoenix Gaming's Dark.
And up here at the top right-hand side of the map, the Blue Protoss player, one of the 2 remaining Blue Protoss players, one who has been around since the early days of StarCraft 2. Give it up for Team NV's Creator. Yeah, those Creator fans out there.
Creator is awesome, man. It's very hard not to root for him, and obviously he's a bit of an underdog, and on top of that, he's a Protoss player. There are already quite a few Zergs advancing. The winner of this series will move on to face off against Hero in the quarterfinals. Whoever wins, obviously, that's going to be a 6 series, but I do think that a lot of people secretly hope that Creator is able to somehow get the upset done here, because it would be an upset, guys. The numbers don't lie. Zombie Grub mentioned it. These guys have played 22 times against each other. Current score, 20-2 in favor of Dark. Dark has apparently won like the last 18 matches in a row as well. So Creator is the underdog, but if he gets the job done, we get a PvP quarterfinal. If we get a PvP quarterfinal, it means we get a Protoss in the semifinal, and that is obviously something that a lot of people would love to see.
I'm definitely on board with that kind of idea, but even to add a little bit to that statistic as well, a lot of the time you cite those stats where it's like, oh man, you know, this many games past the other player has won. They've just been dominating. It goes all the way back to like 2012 or something. You know, Wings of Liberty. It's a different meta. These players have been around for a while. Most of those games, almost all those games, are actually only going back to like 2019. It's actually fairly recent matches and everything. But I do think Creator has been popping off more so recently than ever before. So if there is a time for Creator to pull off an upset, I think it's going to be here in this round of 8, or yeah, round of 8 match.
I'm with you. I mean, come on, we all know how StarCraft 2 works. We've all had our good ladder days and our bad ladder days, or sometimes you get busy with work or school or university, you don't play for 2 weeks, and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm terrible at the moment. So games 2019, it may seem like somewhat recent, but obviously it's completely irrelevant to what is going to happen today. On top of that, we're not in the comfort of our own home. Dark has been successful in the past at LANs, but it's still always different. This is going to create a very different vibe. And of course, Dark coming into this series as a heavy favorite, in a weird way, that brings along some pressure as well, right? This is not a 50-50 where he goes up against a Raynor or a Sero or Maru. No, he knows that everybody is expecting him to win. And that can sometimes stress you out a little bit, no matter how experienced you are, and Dark has all the experience, but it can still be intimidating.
It's something he's definitely going to have to get used to as a fairly strong player at this point. I'm sure he is a little bit used to that kind of pressure. We are going to be seeing these build orders start to shape on up, as it is a Stargate opening coming out from Creator. Pretty stock and standard for the most part. Got out that first Adept, got out the Stalker to push back any of those Overlords. He's going to start sending out that Adept to scout out and see what exactly his opponent Dark is up to, as a Roach Horn also being thrown down on Dark's side of the map.
Yeah, I think for Dark, the first 5-6 minutes of almost all of these games against Creator are going to be relatively standard. I really don't expect Dark to do some crazy early game all-ins, because that just increases the RNG. He is the favorite, so he's not supposed to make these games random. He is just going to try to defend to the best of his abilities. He is okay with losing 8 drones, sometimes 2 drones to an Oracle, but what he wants to avoid at all costs are these starts that we sometimes see from these world-class Korean Protoss players, where 2 Adepts get 4 or 5 drones, and then the Oracles get 5 drones in a different base. 2 drones morph into a Spore Crawler, and suddenly as a Zerg you've lost 12 or 13 workers, and that is just often the beginning of the end. That is a pretty quick third base, not like ultra quick, you know, it's minute 4, but it's at least telling us that Creator is going to build a few more workers here in the first game, and we're not going to do something crazy of 2 bases.
Yeah, and I like that. I also like just the idea of getting slight edges, just taking slight amounts of greed, not taking things too overboard, just to try and find advantages where you can. Oracles direct on in, and they manage to find 2 workers. One of the Oracles gets fairly damaged, but, you know, solid damage as long as you keep those Oracles alive.
Yeah, fair trade. I actually kind of thought the Queen positioning by Dark was cool, but then I also like that Creator was like, maybe I should go for it, but then Creator's like, nah, this is bait. There's probably another Queen lurking in the shadows, waiting to drop a transfuse. It's better to go for that guaranteed damage, and in the end he was able to grab 2 drones. Nothing too significant, but it's the little things that really matter in the first 5 or 6 minutes of this matchup.
I love the spread of the queens there from Dark. It makes it so difficult to move forward with those oracles. Just you can see them placed around almost like missile turrets in kind of a campaign mode mission or something, where they're just ready to prevent those oracles from getting freely in to not only getting kind of drone damage on, but also to get a whole lot of scouting information. But one oracle does manage to make its way into the natural.
Creator is very active with these oracles, man, and so far I am loving it. We don't want to lose it, though. Let's not do the cast the curse thing where he's like, oh, he's doing a great job with the oracles, and then he loses 1 or 2. But I'd say so far so good. The man is just building probes at home, queues up the first Immortal. The only thing I'm a bit confused by, Fair Dragon, is that our Twilight Council finished up quite some time ago, as this oracle takes a lot of damage. Could have hyped it up, but I knew it was going to survive at 2 HP. But we have a Twilight Council, but he doesn't use it. Oh wait, now we have a Twilight Council. I thought I saw it earlier. Am I crazy? I guess I saw the Forge.
Yeah.
That's why we didn't use it.
That's a good reason not to use it, but that Twilight Council is going to be on the way, like you were saying. We'll see what he's going to be going up to, as he does have +1 weapons on the way. Wouldn't be surprised if we end up seeing, a decent number of Stalkers and stuff added on.
But Dark could go for Swarm Host here, no? Because he's building a lot of roaches. He's firing up +1 missile attacks. He's on 66 drones. And there is something very magical about the number 66 and Swarm Host. Don't ask me why, but Zerg players, basically since the Snoot days, have been talking about 66 drones and roaches and Swarm Host. There we have the Nidus network going up as well. So there's absolutely going to be some Swarm Host play. As these oracles get in there, very cute play with the Phoenix. All 3 units take a lot of damage, but more importantly than killing 4 drones right now is to get the scout off on this Nidus network and on the infestation pit, and he hasn't done that yet.
It's over at the natural expansion. These units are just going to get recalled outside of the main base. I am suddenly flashbacking, Kev, to all of the Zerg players who pre-patch or right after the patch had launched were saying, Swarmo's pretty good on these maps, actually. There's a lot of potential and power for that. But in order to utilize those Swarmos, it seems like Dark is going to have to first make sure he can survive and not take too much damage from this first attack.
Oh, he will absolutely survive, mate. Creator cannot be on creep. What Creator can obviously do is try to pretend he wants to be aggressive and hope that he can buy some extra time. This hallucinated Phoenix finally gets the big scout off, but the first Nidus network is already going up, and we're not looking at 6 to 8 Swarmos. We have 14 Swarmos on the production tab. This is going to be very hard. Army supplies don't look that bad right now for Creator, but the biggest problem is that his army is not fantastic in dealing with Locust. But the one thing he does have is a cannon, a battery. Stasis traps could come in very handy, and it's so important not to take too much damage from the first wave of Locust. We're going to activate battery overcharge immediately. He has to pull the probes away, and he does. I actually think this is very acceptable for Creator.
Yeah, 6 workers lost. I think a Zealot and a Stalker or so is definitely not the worst loss whatsoever. You would love to be able to clean up that Nidus Swarm just to start preventing additional Nidus Swarms from starting to scatter around the map and really increase the options for where things can go. That is going to be the power, the value of those oracles staying alive to this part of the game.
Actually, very well done as well. Left a couple of Immortals behind just in case Dark would go for some sort of crazy roach run by or try to get a Nidus up in the natural. That is not going to be the case. It's all about these Stargate units to keep track of this terrifying Zerg army. Will Dark make the mistake of landing all of his Locusts at the same time? The answer is no. Dark is way too good for that. So a lot of Locusts will get on top of these Stalkers, sentries, batteries, and I think Overcharge is still on cooldown for a split second, but Creator is hanging in there. He's taking damage, but he's absolutely hanging in there.
He is doing a really solid job overall. Like you said, he was taking some damage, but he keeps the Nexus alive. He keeps a lot of the core units alive as well. Additional Immortals being cranked on out. And one of the dangers you have to worry about as the Swarm Host player is, yes, your supply is going to be so high. You're going to have all these roaches and lings also to complement the army. But if you do start to lose momentum, if your opponent starts catching Nidus Swarms as they're popping up, there is an opportunity for your opponent to have this massive high-tech army that they can actually start doing counter damage with.
I'm actually starting to smile a little bit, man, and this is why it's so important for Creator to keep these oracles alive, right? Like, yes, it's nice to kill drones, and sometimes you want to kill a queen or two, but if you lose these oracles, keeping track of these Nidus networks, keeping track of all the Locusts is so much more difficult. Fantastic pickup there as well with the Warp Prism. Hasn't really lost a single Immortal yet, as far as I can tell. He's going to activate battery overcharge. Dark has, I don't want to say given up on this, but he is looking to transition as Hive is close to finishing up, and we've got a Lurker then on the way. But Creator obviously at this point knows, like, hey, hey, this was good, but it was kind of easy. And if things are too good to be true in PvZ from the Protoss point of view, they usually are, and then you know that your opponent is not all out committed. Obviously, Creator has a lot of respect for Dark. He knows how good he is. And if Dark was truly all in and committed off lair tech, he would have been way more in his face. Creator knows that, so I do think it's time for Creator now to see if we can maybe start getting to the other side of the map, maybe sneak a Prism into the main base and start being on the offensive.
Well, they're still going to have to be dealing with these Swarmos because they have not been taken care of, and the next Swarm is still going to be an active option. 16 workers going down, definitely some pretty good damage, and finds the Nexus. We're seeing the counterattack across the map. A couple of these lurkers are being morphed. The Oracles find them and actually manage to cancel 2 of them, going for the 3rd as well, lifting up a Queen.
Mapu, can you show us the Immortal count real quick? Because I have the feeling we're looking at a ludicrous amount of Immortals. He's got 12 Immortal. Roaches will absolutely stand no chance against 12 Immortals. Dark is going to have to get the Swarmos back in. Everywhere Dark looks right now, he sees Immortals. He's going to try to get on top of these 4. There is a War Prism nearby. Dark is going to try to get on top of this army with all of his Locusts, but I'm really starting to believe in Creator's chances here. He may be down 50 supply. All he needs to do is wait until this wave of Locusts has disappeared, and then he needs to go. He knows that he took a lot of economic damage, but the army supplies right now are actually a lot closer than what the numbers are telling us. A lot of Hydras are on the way, but the Hydras don't have all of their upgrades. Immortals are great, but they do need a little bit of support. It's kind of now or never for Creator, and he knows it.
He is consolidating his army. He has finally put it all together into one big chunk, one big piece. Drones being pulled off the line as well. The Hydras are doing their best to try and hold on until the Swarmos have a Locust Wave available. Locust Wave has been launched from every single one of those Swarmos, and the Protoss army has to retreat on back. He's not able to break through into the natural. He's able to pick up a couple of the reinforcements coming in from behind, but as soon as that Locust Wave disappears, it's going to be go time yet again for Creator, and he's already been able to find quite a few good trades.
And he's going to be able to warp in a couple of extra units as well. He's sitting on a little bit of money, 800 minerals, 800 gas. He decides to go for 6 or 7 Stalkers, and these Hydras once more don't have all their upgrades. It is kind of, the number is decent now. 25 Hydras is very decent, but it doesn't feel like they were necessarily all together at the same place. It's a proper micro battle. There is a forward blink by Creator. He thinks he's got enough firepower, but he lost the War Prism, Ravi.
He can't micro back the Immortals anymore. The Swarmos are coming on out, and the Protoss army is disappearing before Dark. He takes the first game.
Oh no, brutal, because Dark was actually down to 39 drones. Dark lost the base and down to 39 drones. That was awfully close, but in the end, Dark survives the March of the Immortal, because that's really the best way to summon up that game. 12 Immortals were cranked out of the double robo. Creator got very close, man. That forward blink, obviously a little bit ambitious, but I get it, right? He knows that the windows between the Swarmos Locusts are not all that big, so he felt it was now or never. And I don't think that's even where it went wrong. I just think it went wrong when he lost the War Prism, because at that point, he can't get anything done anymore. If he still has the Prism alive, even when the next wave of Locusts come, he could actually disengage, because he has a 12-worker lead. He had 51 probes against 39 drones.
I was going to ask, do you feel like it is a potential situation where he just could have actually left or at least backed off a lot earlier on because he knew he was no longer on the timer he was before? Before that, we saw that Dark was going to Hive Tech. He was getting up transitions, but after you've lost that many workers, you don't really have the economy, I mean, much less the base count to actually afford to really take advantage of that Hive Tech very much.
I don't think he wanted to commit as hard as he did to that final fight. Of course, there was that forward blink, but I think in his mind it was always, I can be here, I can micro, I can warp in a couple of extra units, and once the Locusts come, I can disengage. But the moment he loses the War Prism, he can no longer disengage. The units got surrounded. But yeah, obviously looking back at it, maybe he could have gone home. We can drop a Robo Bay, maybe we can spam some Disruptors against the Lurkers. Of course, we need to get ready for Vipers, because Dark will always sneak out a few Vipers. He's excellent with that unit, but yeah, that was a very exciting first game. Creator did, I think, a lot of things well, but kudos to Dark, because that was not an easy Protoss army to clean up.
No, absolutely. We are going to be heading into map number 2, and we're going to be starting down here in the bottom right-hand side of Dragon Scales, where this man is currently sitting up 1-0 in this best of 5. In the bottom right, the red Zerg player from Dragon Phoenix Gaming, he is Dark.
And in the top left side, we're going to take a look at the main base of the man who did a lot of things right. Kept the Oracles alive, had some good scouting with the Phoenix, and in the end he decided to send it, and he got so close, but could not quite close it out. It's Envy's Creator.
Really cool first game there, but it's worth mentioning that while Creator was kind of getting his own setup there, he ended up spamming out a lot of Immortals and got into a unique composition we don't oftentimes see in PvZ. A lot of the initial changes and the kind of interesting points in the early stages of that game came from Dark. It was Dark deciding that he was going to go for this kind of Swarmos play, to go for the Nidus Swarm, and a lot of it was Creator reacting. So I'm very curious where game number 2 is headed.
Well, Dark is going to open things up with the spawning pool first. He had a drone on patrol. I think trying to freak Creator out a little bit, that maybe something crazy is happening, but Creator is still going to see that Dark will take his natural, but obviously Dark is going to be happy about the fact that he can take his natural, because more often than not, Zerg players are forced to take their expand elsewhere these days.
Probe comes in over here, and there's going to be a pretty typical reaction. We actually saw a Zealot in production for a moment there. Creator ends up canceling it, throws down the Nexus and the Cyber Core, and just going to deal with these Lings as they head across the map a little bit later on.
That makes me nervous, because they give me the idea that Creator kind of misread it or started second-guessing himself, right? And he's like, what kind of pool is that? Are we looking at a 15 pool? Is it earlier than that? It's not, but we do already have a couple of Zerglings running to the other side of the map. Creator decided to go without a Zealot, so he's going to have to Chrono Boost the hell out of this Adept, but he's probably going to be forced to pull probes for a little while, man, because this pylon is going to be a target, and if this pylon goes down before the Adept is out, it'd be a nightmare, so Creator is going to try to buy some time with the full wall off, and I don't hate that.
Yeah, I think that's entirely reasonable. The Zerglings also know that the Adept is prone to actually pop out in a matter of seconds, so they're just going to go ahead and retreat on back home. Gateway gets canceled, and Creator can do the proper wall off. That's not a full wall with, you know, whatever time that he has.
Yep. He's going to follow it up with the Stargate. I don't hate seeing that, not just because Stargates are always solid, but Dark's opening a little bit different, could lead into some crazy aggression, as Dark had 4 links, makes 4 more links right now. Could just be to deal with these first 2 Adepts that are heading his way. We're gonna have to keep an eye on it. Creator, what are we doing? He moved commands on top of the ramp, did not expect the links and the queens there, and that's honestly a big blunder. You don't have a lot of units early game, every Adept matters, and this is gonna scare him even more, because now he didn't even get the shade into the main base, so he doesn't know if something scary is happening.
And it's even tougher now, because he has to keep the other Adept back at home. He doesn't really have the 2 Adepts that he normally would have to start maneuvering around, try and one-shot some drones, keep your opponent feeling like they have to actually stay at home for a bit. So Creator's going to be especially in the dark. He's going to go for the Void Ray, which do you feel like that's kind of like a safety thing at this point, because you just really don't know what's happening?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a 2-in-1. It's like, I'm gonna go Void Ray because maybe I've practiced this a little bit, and it's obviously good in sniping the Overlord. And there are quite a few Protoss players who will go Void Ray in the most standard normal games. Obviously just a single Void Ray. We don't really make more than 1 anymore. But I think this time around it's kind of a 2-in-1. It's like, in case you're sending Roaches and Ravages to the other side of the map, or you're going to show up with a lot of links, I don't just want to have a single Oracle that can run out of energy. Let's play it safe, go with the Void Ray, and I'll hopefully find some value out of this unit by picking up ideally 2 Overlords and of course keeping the 3rd base safe.
And he is not going to have to worry about any of those kind of attacks, but he will at least be able to find 1 Overlord for now as his Warp Gate finishes on up and alongside that Oracle. And we'll see if he can actually get a bit more damage done across the map once that Gateway finishes up, if he is going to be sending those Adepts to try and find some kind of damage.
Yep, Creator sees that there is nothing too scary out there. These are the moments that for us as commentators and as fans are very chill. We know that they're just macroing, but if you're Creator, you're playing this game, you're on the edge of your seat, you're nervous, you're trying to pick up on anything you could potentially see on the minimap, because you don't want to find yourself in that scenario where 22 Zerglings show up, they wrap around the 3rd Nexus, or even a couple of super random Banelings that are morphing, trying to blow up the Adept that's in the wall to open the floodgates, right? Because then a Void Ray is suddenly not all that great anymore. We know none of that is happening, but obviously Creator is making sure he's double checking, he's triple checking, and he wants to ideally drop the Revelation here as well. And then he gets the confirmation that all of this looks pretty normal and he doesn't have anything to worry about.
Yep, and even just spawning out that lair definitely removes a lot of the possibilities for different types of all-ins that could have been coming his way. So he's probably going to be breathing a massive sigh of relief that he knows, all right, things are not to be worried too much about for the moment.
Charge first. Charge before blink this time around. So Creator is going to switch it up. Of course, last game he went for a very quick Robo and for a quick Forge with the +1, and it was all about the double Robo Immortal. He did get a Twilight Council a little bit later, and he went for a blink and obviously warped in a lot of Stalkers towards the end. As we have a Stasis Trap. That's a good old Stasis Trap. Looking at 9 or 10 drones there that are stuck, and that's pretty annoying for Darkman, especially because there is potentially some aggression heading his way with that Warp Prism finishing up and Charge finishing up.
Yep. That economic loss is going to be hitting in the next 60 or so seconds, where it's just going to be fewer resources and fewer units for Dark for a little bit. Charge nearing completion, Templar Archives nearing completion, 4 gateways on the way, and the War Prism is already done. We are going to be seeing Creator putting pedal to the metal with unit production in about 60 or so seconds. And Dark, he's making some roaches. He's getting out actually quite a few roaches now, so he's going to have a standing army to help deal with this. And roaches in large numbers can help deal with a lot of those chargelets if they're in the right position.
Yeah, and obviously with a little bit of micro, roaches have some kiting potential, especially once roach speed finishes up. Dark dropping the Hydra then. Now very often we'll talk about lurkers, right, and how we could go into lurker viper, and that's great. Roach Hydra is not something we talk about very often, because a lot of people tell you that the Roach Hydra is terrible. And Roach Hydra, yes, is terrible in some ways, but it is very good against people that don't get any splash damage. If there is no Storm or Disruptor or Colossus, Roach Hydra is actually still good, guys. Trust me, because Zealots don't do very well, Archons don't do very well, and even Immortals will only be good against the Roaches. But we can talk about that later, as we have a couple of Archons, a Void Ray, and a bunch of Zealots showing up in the main base. Dark was a little bit out of position. He will obviously be able to clean this up, but the real question is how much damage is Creator able to do? Is he going to recall these Zealots out? Yeah, he's going to try at least.
Yeah, he's going to be able to get a handful of them, and it's important because otherwise losing 8 or so Zealots in exchange for, what, 5 drones is definitely not going to be worth it.
He's got to play like Void Ray Colossus or something, no? Because he's got +1 air weapons on the way, he's got a second Stargate on the way, and there is a Robo Bay done. We have not quite used that Robo Bay yet, but I mean, these guys are like, hey, we've been around since Wings of Liberty. We're going to show you some Wings of Liberty, baby. Void Ray Colossus against Roach Hydra. What year is this for a dragon? Okay, that's a disruptor. That ruins the party.
That is going to be a little bit of a change-up. Maybe the missing component that Protoss have needed to make this composition work for the first time in a long time. But this is most certainly not what I would say is a standard kind of Protoss style. I'm very curious what Dark is going to be thinking of this when he sees the Void Race coming out.
Well, this honestly looks pretty bad for Dark. He's got a little army supply advantage, but Roach Hydra off creep, not necessarily the GOAT army. Forcing it to attack into batteries, not going to be great either. We've got Overlord speed on the way now. It almost gives me the idea that Dark wants to just send everything to the other side of the map. He's really full sending it. Disruptors are a dream unit in this scenario. Creator doesn't even truly need to worry about defending this base. All that Creator needs to do here in Game 2, guys, is stabilize on 3 bases. Get as many batteries as you can, get as many cannons as you can, and get up the Disruptor count. And I think as soon as he's got 3 Disruptors, there is no way he should ever lose against Roach Hydra of Lairtech.
Yeah, we're seeing the Creator is going to go for this hatchery snipe. He also got the hatchery in the bottom left-hand side as well. So that's a double hatch snipe there for Creator. That actually might immediately trigger Dark to start moving across the map and try and get something done.
I'd love to see one more Robo here. Like, I know maybe that doesn't even come into play. First Stasis is decent. All that Creator needs to do, guys, is make sure he does not lose any Disruptors. Keep your Disruptor count. Crank out one at a time, just chrono boost it. As long as he gets a couple of Disruptors out, there is no way he ever loses. Dark is gonna go super old school. I always think of Nurture when I see this. He is going to pick up the entire Zerg army and drop it into the main base of the Protoss.
It's actually so difficult for this Protoss army to deal with this unless the Void Rays are in position already. And I don't think Creator has any idea something like this is going to be coming. The gateways are going to be the first thing to scout this out as those drop overlords are moving straight on in to the main base of Creator at the same time, and another army moves into the bottom right, or to the top right.
Yep, Dark is going to try to attack the main base and the third at the same time. I still don't think this is ever going to work for Dark, though, and he kind of has to know that too. He can't really escape either because the Void Ray count is so high, but the Roaches are stuck. That's a big Nova, and Dark's supply is plummeting. Dark is losing at the top left. He's probably losing a lot of units at the third as well. Creator is so full of confidence, still going up to 4 bases in the top right, queuing up a carrier. And earlier I said, if things are too good to be true, they usually are. Well, this probably feels too good to be true as well for Creator, but he's done it, Ravi. He has literally done it. I don't see what Dark does from here on out.
Dark has nothing else behind this. He's churning out more and more of these Hydras. He's getting a +2 missile attacks, but that's about it. He is so far behind in supply right now. He is going to be trying to push back the Void Rays, but the Disruptors, like you said before, not only are they great on the defense, I think they're still going to be really, really effective when he starts finally getting on the offense.
Yep, but I don't even know if we're ever going to see that, because Creator will probably feel like, I don't even need to attack you right now. Until I am maxed out, he's going to maybe try to land one more Nova. I think Dark might just launch one more Desperation attack, and then that could be it. Or it will be indeed Creator marching to the other side of the map. But at this point, Dark is just completely running out of options. He does not have money for the Infestation Pit and Hive Tech. And even if he would find the resources for that, there is no way that he can drag this game on long enough to ever get some Vipers out. And that's obviously the one unit that he needs to have a chance in this game.
There's so many units that the Viper would help out against, whether it be the Disruptors, pulling the Carriers on forward. It's really, really tough, but like you said, he's not really going to have the resources to afford it, especially after having lost 2 of his bases, and he only finally recently got back up. He may very well be losing those bases again, though, because the Prismatic Alignment is active, and that hatchery is getting target fire down.
Yep, Dark is down more than 50 supply. Has a couple of Hydras in the natural, and I think they found some success, but this hatchery, well, it's getting saved for now by the Queens, but he's losing a tremendous amount of Roaches and Hydras in the top right side. Turns out that the Queen is still pretty good, and it does keep that hatchery alive. That's an excellent save by Dark. But that doesn't really change the reality of the situation that he's in. Picking up a couple of Void Rays is nice, but he really didn't get a whole lot done on the other side of the map.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like you were saying, it's basically just buying time for Creator to get to his big, scary Death Ball army with the additional carriers being added on in, and Dark has just kept it home. He hasn't had a chance to take a 5th base during all of this because he's still trying to put on the pressure, but he's also has to defend back at home.
He's trying to keep 4 bases alive, Robbie.
yeah, exactly.
He was knocked down to 2 bases not too long ago, as Creator is really enjoying life as he drops another Stargate, and he was able to keep his Cybernetic score alive as well against all these Hydras. That was obviously important as +2 air weapons is finishing up. Now, earlier I said I didn't expect Creator to attack. This is kind of the moment where I do want to see him start moving out, and he knows it as well. If you're maxed out, you're never going to get further ahead than you currently are at this point. Sometimes you can trade out some units and get a slightly better army, but it's not like Dark has a lot of static defenses that you need to worry about. You just kind of need to send it right now. If you've got your opponents on the ropes, go ahead and knock him out, and that's exactly what Creator is going to do here.
Now, Dark is going to try and counter with his own big base trading move, and I mean, it's kind of his best bet, but remember, Recall is still going to be available, and that means that there is nothing back at home to prevent this big Protoss Death Ball from moving on forward. It looks like Pylon's getting target fired down on the other side of the map, but it's not going to be enough, and Dark knows it. Creator ties up the series 1-1.
Yep. And I mean, it's kind of fun to think about it, because like, where did Creator get all that far ahead? I think the fact that he dropped such an early Disruptor Bay, or a Robo Bay, excuse me, to make a couple of Disruptors, I think that's not something that Dark expected, and I can't blame him for it, because I also don't know Creator as the guy that rushes out Storm or rushes out Disruptors. So Roach Hydra can actually be somewhat good against people that stay with relatively basic Protoss units that just have their DPS from fighting, like the Archons, Immortals, Zealots, and Stalkers. So in that way, I can sort of see it. Of course, we had a little Archon drop with a couple of Zealots in the main base. Like, that was a success, but to say that that was game-ending damage, it really wasn't. It became game-ending damage when Dark just stayed on a relatively low economy and kept on building Roaches and Hydras, and Creator was still able to pick up the 4th hatchery.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, even that kind of attack that you were talking about, killing 5 workers and then basically having to recall out of there and pick up with the Archons to evacuate, that is not a ton of damage. It was the fact that, like you said, Dark committing, really, really putting the pressure on him to actually get something done. Disruptors, you know, I don't blame Dark entirely, because I can't really name the last time I saw a Protoss player go for charge lots into pumping out Void Rays into also adding on the Disruptors, but it works so well, especially against the exact composition Dark was going for.
Yep, and obviously all the Dropper Lords could have been a very annoying to deal with, especially if Dark had the ability to pick up these units, fly around, drop them on the low ground, go back into the main, but it wasn't a single Void Ray.
Yeah.
We were looking at 6 or 7 Void Rays, and that's obviously not something that Dark expected. But things worked out perfectly for Creator, the underdog, heading into this final best of 5 of the round of 12. Did you enjoy today? today, Ruffy?
I've been loving today, and you know what? We're getting a pretty awesome series, so I can't complain about this as we head into game number 3 with a tied-up series so far. Up here in the top left-hand side of the map of Neo Humanity, we are going to be spawning on top of the red Zerg player from Dragon Phoenix Gaming. He is Dark.
The bottom right side of Neo Humanity, we are looking at the main base of one of the 2 last remaining Protoss players of this tournament. Representing Team Envy, this is Creator. Some Katowice love there for Creator, Fear Dragon.
Absolutely. Like you were saying, I think he's won so many people's hearts out there. And, you know, I will say I'm a big Dark fan. And it's not just because I loved his signature series, it's because Dark is not afraid to get down and dirty when it comes down to it, and we already do see a hatchery being built, and it's not exactly at the normal location, Roddy. It's in his opponent's third base.
That's a build. Now, one of the things that a Zerg player could do here, guys, is link flood. And if you guys are wondering, but how are you going to link flood if there are that many minerals? Can you mine out all these minerals? Well, you technically only really need 1 drone. Like 1 drone can just make a couple of trips. What he could do as well is take the Vespian geyser and then send it back and forth like that, but that's not even really necessary. If Creator does not immediately start looking for this, he could obviously be blindsided by it. Creator is right now scouting around, and I think he's sending a probe towards the bottom to see if there is something up there. He's checking for proxy hatches, but he's not checking the spot where the proxy hatch is at the moment.
Oh, is he going to realize it? And I just do want to note, Dark is starting to try and mine from that base. He's mining from the top side because that is the side that's going to allow the battery units, like say a queen or something, through. This ramp is a little bit odd where the bottom side doesn't necessarily do that. But if he wants to do things like move a spine crawler up and build on the low ground, start creep up to the high ground, start migrating over, he needs to mine out more than just one of those mineral patch lines.
Oh, Creator really needs to get on top of this as quickly as possible. He has to kind of be aware of it right now. It's not just going to be Lings and Zerglings. We have a Roach Worm being dropped as well. Creator does have a Zealot running towards the bottom, and that Zealot could absolutely win the fight against the Lings. If the Zealot gets the drone, that'd be massive. Why wouldn't the Zealot try to get the drone? Now the doors are open. What would you like to see Creator do? I do think we need to go for a full wall-off in the front, so we can just fully focus on the... That's not a full wall-off.
That's not a full wall-off at all. And he's going to just hold position the Stalker over there. That's going to be able to hold the line for a little bit, but he absolutely needs to get a closer shield battery up if he wants to try and do that.
Yeah, that battery is too far away, right? That battery does not heal up the Stalker.
There's no way it heals the Stalker from there. That battery is going to be close. That's going to be so close. I don't think it's going to be fully in range.
This is not a bad little skirmish though. Zealot's still alive, adapting, being able to get a couple of shots off. And I do believe that the probe saw the Roach one go up in the main base, right? Can we just double check that? But I'm pretty certain that Creator saw that. He knows that there is a good chance we're going to get a couple of Ravages out. He does not want to invest in a Stargate. He does not want to invest in a Robo. He's just going to go with mass gateway units. And I don't really hate it, because gateway units and batteries should be fine against Roaches and Lings. But I'm just worried for that one moment that the floodgates are open and a lot of Lings all of a sudden show up. But earlier I said I did not expect Dark to take too many risks, too many chances, because he is the favorite, right? He's not supposed to take these kinds of risks. Well, he's absolutely risking a lot here, and he's going to walk into the natural Creator, but that is indeed fully walled off for now. Every second that goes by is just a fantastic second for Creator, because Dark cannot easily transition. Now, we do have a couple of Lings that are going to completely ignore all these batteries, and this is why we wanted to see that full wall off, because that would just make Creator's life so much easier.
Yeah, and now the Ling's going to be able to try and get us around on the Adept. They don't quite kill the Adept, but they do manage to get in on top of a lot of the probes. 4 of them going down. The Ling's not being controlled because I think he's busy controlling the Ravagers of the front lines, trying to morph in a few more. The Lings eventually get cleaned up. But 5 workers dying at this stage in the game, I mean, that's almost a 1/6 the economy of Creator.
It's good, but it's definitely nowhere near good enough for Dark. Dark needs a whole lot more, and he knows it. And I'm not exactly sure how he's going to get the job done. These Adepts right now are going to check to see if Dark maybe has built a bunch of drones and is already mining from this base. For Creator, it's not too easy to figure out if there is an expand on the other side of the map. But he's so confident that he's got 2 Adepts in a pylon right now near the Zelnaga Watchtower. The main base of Dark is going to be very, very, very exposed. Like a single Roach is actually going to give Dark the heads up that this is happening. That's a big moment for Dark. But even if he knows that these 2 Adepts Adepts are coming. What is he going to do about it? These 2 Adepts can very easily kill 5 or 6 drones, and that would put Dark in all sorts of trouble.
There are 0 units that were started up before these Adepts come in, and 4 Lings are all that are on the way in that main base. Drones are going down. The Ravagers are forced now to try and break on through. They're going to try and knock down one of the gateways. They really want to knock down the Cybernetics core, which will also prevent shield batteries and additional stalkers from being warped in. Pylons are going to be the target for now, but there are still pylons further back as well. I don't know if that's going to be the way to success here.
There are extra Ravagers coming, and slowly but steady, a couple of pylons will go down. Sniping the Cybercore is obviously cute, but look at that army of Creator, and don't forget, he's got an overcharge, and he will probably have the ability to get a couple of overcharges out. He's got an 18 worker lead over Dark. For Dark, it's truly now or never with the 42 army supply he's currently working with, and Creator probably can't believe it. He's like, is this really it? Am I doing it? He's absolutely doing it, but he does still need to clean up this army.
He does. I would still love if he did something with the left-hand side, walling it off so the Lings can't just try and distract some of these units. We're seeing really, really big corrosive vials knocking out 3 of the shield batteries instantaneously. That's going to be a big W there for Dark, but he's actually bleeding off some of these Zerglings as he rallies them in for the proxy hatch. Needs to adjust that rally.
Dark is definitely struggling here. We're going to go ahead and pop one of these overcharges immediately. Creator now chasing this army out very far. He really does not have to do that. He is in a tremendous position in this game. He's even dropping the robo, dropping a couple of extra batteries. It's almost like he truly cannot believe that he would have such a big advantage over his opponent. But hey, it is actually happening. All he needs to do is just keep on building units, keep on building batteries, because Dark needs to break Creator here. He's pulling the probes. It's a bit unnecessary.
Yeah, I mean, especially considering, like you were saying, he still can just chill for a little bit. He has other things that are coming up forward, like that Immortal transition with the Robo. I think as soon as that finishes up, it's going to be so difficult for Dark to ever break this. Even a Warp Prism would make or break the difference here. Surrounds and kills off one of the Ravagers. The Probe still getting involved, and I suppose a handful of them can die, but you don't want to lose all of them, I imagine.
And let's go back to mining. I feel like Creator is making this very difficult on himself. Just put your Stalkers in a concave, get a couple shots off. You can regenerate with the batteries, and Dark cannot. The only thing that Dark can do is get in range and try to pick off one battery at a time. Creator needs to just kind of continue back mining, man. These probes really have not helped a whole lot, and it would have been so much better to just put your Stalkers in a beautiful concave, and if he wants to get in range, you get a couple of shots up, but obviously it's so hard to stay calm and composed in the round of 12 of the biggest StarCraft tournament of the year. The force fields have not been half bad, and the army supplies look better right now for Creator than they did a long time ago. And finally, probes go back to what they are supposed to be doing, Ravi.
They are going to be comfortably mining now, no longer on the front lines of this skirmish. And I wonder if Creator was maybe thinking like, oh, maybe you're mining from that low ground base, maybe you're in a better economic situation than I thought. But at this point, with the first Immortal popping out, a shield battery also being popped, I think Creator knows he has a lot of reason to feel confident right now.
He's going to feel even more confident once these 2 Adepts make it into the main base one more time, or when Dark just steps out. A little fist pump there from Creator as he takes the 2-1 lead. Against all odds, historically, he has only won 2 out of the 22 encounters he's had with the man who's sitting on the other side of that stage. But now, in arguably the biggest series that these 2 have ever played, he takes the 2-1 lead. I have to say, Dark is kind of handing it to him, man. Like, I did not expect a build like this, and I didn't think it was necessary from Dark to do that.
It was really, really tough to try and make that work once things started getting handled. Once Creator kind of started getting a proper wall off and everything, it seemed like he was getting a better and better handle on things. Dark is no slouch. I mean, he is a former world champion from BlizzCon, but he is now down and up against the ropes. He is down 1-2, 1 game away from being eliminated here at IEM Katowice.
Last year, a big storyline was Sero, right? Sero won BlizzCon. Sero won pretty much everything that the man has ever participated in, but the one thing that he didn't won yet was IEM Katowice. Last year, Sero finally got that crowning achievement on his career. We can say the same about Dark, man. Like, Dark has won plenty of GSL Codesses. He has won pretty much everything that he has ever participated in. He has won a BlizzCon as well in 2019. Back then, Grand Finals against Raynor. But the one tournament that this man hasn't won yet is the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice. And it's not starting to look like it's going to happen this year if this continues, because he finds himself down 1-2. Already had a bit of a shaky group stage as well. Dark is in trouble.
That is definitely going to be the case. Dark is going to be considering his options, figuring out what he wants to do moving into the next game. We're going to give him a little bit of time to consider what he wants to do moving into game number 4. We're going to be back right after a short break, guys. Don't go anywhere because you do not want to miss the conclusion of this series. A difficult situation for our Zerg champion from the past. He is now finding himself in a situation where he has to win 2 games in a row to keep his tournament hopes alive against an underdog who he has typically had an incredible win record against. Creator really playing some StarCraft. That is, I think, he's something he can be very truly proud of right now.
Yeah, it's funny because I feel like out of the 3 games, I actually thought that Creator played his best StarCraft in the first game. But that's the game that he lost because Dark obviously did a lot of things correct as well. The second game, it all felt a little bit random and weird to me, but hey, it worked out. Sometimes I think in StarCraft 2, even if it's a game of skill, you can get fortunate, right? Like you do something weird, but that weird thing is good against the other weird thing that your opponent is doing. Neither of you guys necessarily planned that the game would ever play out like that. So he was able to win that second game. And the third game, I felt that he made it harder on himself than it had to be sometimes, but I think in the end of the day, if you're getting cheesed in such a big best of 5, round of 12, IEM Katowice, it doesn't really matter how beautiful your defense is, as long as you defend, as long as you win, and that is something that our Protoss player did.
We are going to be starting game number 4 down here on the bottom right-hand side of the map. On top of the red Zerg player from Dragon Phoenix Gaming, he is Dark.
For the last 4 years, that man has always at least made it into the quarterfinals, but he's now trailing 1-2 against this man in the top left side, the second to last Protoss player in this tournament, hailing from Korea as well. Katowice, make some noise for Creator. They love that nerd.
I think all of us love that nerd. He's been putting up some great games so far, but I think one of the questions on my mind is, does Dark feel like getting hyper aggressive, getting really into his opponent's face is going to be the right call? And I'm not necessarily talking about like a proxy hatch or anything like that, but even the Swarm host game was the game that's felt like Dark was trying to do that Swarm host style and everything, and some things are kind of working out at the very beginning, but in the end, it kind of didn't go his way because it did start going his way because of the War Prism snipe and everything, but it was a very tense game.
It almost didn't go his way, but in the end it did go his way, and it did still win. But you're right, because like for instance, if I think back of some of the Reina games that I've seen of Roaches and Swarm hosts, if you talk about things going your way, it's literally like first Locust does a lot of damage, second Locust wave pretty much wins the game, and if it doesn't play out like that, well then at least it's always 200 supply for the Zerg, and like 135, 140 for the Protoss, but the supplies were awfully close in that first game, so I absolutely get what you're saying, and I understand where you try to go with it, but I think also once more, what goes for Creator in Game 3, like did he make life harder on himself than it had to be? Probably. Doesn't matter, right? A win is a win. This is not the time to impress people with your phenomenal clean gameplay. No. All that matters is getting W's on the board. It's playoffs. It's do or die.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, again, the question is going to be whether or not Dark decides to go a similar route, or if he does decide to try and stay a little bit further back, if he feels like that is going to be his best chance for victory. For now, Creator is going to do something that I think every Protoss player out there considers to be a safe play. Open it up Stargate, get out that Oracle. It's going to be just one of the best ways to ensure that you have better defenses against anything weirdly aggressive your opponent could do.
And Dark, his gas was actually, this is really weird, I love talking about this even though it's not relevant at all. But whenever I scout a Zerg and I see that they take that gas like a couple of seconds earlier than they normally take it, I get worried immediately because we have a double pylon block, by the way, slightly more important. This is really cool by Creator because he's making it awfully difficult for Dark to just get that third hatchery up. And look at Dark's build order right now. He's stripping up 4 Overlords on the production tab in 3 minutes and 10 seconds because of all these pylon block shenanigans. 5 Overlords, what is happening?
This is kind of wild. He was at just 36 of 36 for such a long time. Finally pushes off the Adept, which may even be able to survive over here if the Shade finishes up. It rounds the bend and it survives. The Speedlings are still going to be giving chase to it for a moment's time, and those Lings did try and move across the map. A handful of them went over to the main base. I think they mostly got cleaned up, but a really, really nice start here for Creator to just throw Dark off his game.
Yep, and that is what it's all about, right? Like all of these guys are able to execute a build order if you just let them sit back and execute. But Creator's like, nope, I'm going to be annoying. Now I'm going to be more annoying. I'm doubling down on being annoying. And you could really see that it tripped Dark up a little bit. I don't think I've ever seen Dark have 5 Overlords on the production tab in 3 minutes and 10 seconds. And for the people who don't really understand why is that such a big deal, that is just not the way that the Zerg build order is ever supposed to flow. He wants to make a few more drones. He wants to saturate 2 bases as quickly as possible. He wants to go up to 3 bases as quickly as possible. He does not want to spend 5 larvae and 500 minerals on Overlords when he doesn't need it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even just putting him into drones, that's an extra 10 drones that could be mining for an extra minute or two. It's all going to add up. It sets everything you were planning to do a bit further behind. That's going to give Creator some opportunities if he wants to try and invest into things, to try and take advantage of that, to try and take advantage of the fact that Dark is simply going to be a little bit further behind a Zerg player normally should be.
Yep. Opening up with 1 Phoenix, by the way, is interesting, right? Maybe just confident that he... Oh, Bailing Nest, that's different. Maybe he just feels that he doesn't need that safety void that he went for. So Dark goes for a Bailing Nest and also an Evolution Chamber and a Spine Crawler.
Is he really convinced an Adept attack is coming?
Yeah, I think what he expected here was that the Stargate was like... I have no idea actually why he thinks he needs a Spine here. I feel like it's way too early to get a Spine. I'm lost, Ravi. I'm lost. And I think that Dark's lost. Maybe it's just the pressure of the moment. Maybe it's this stage. Maybe, you know, this tournament matters even more to him than we think it does. And he's like, it's happening again. And at this point, maybe the wheels are coming off a little. Now none of it is game ending. Dark still has a chance in this game. Don't get too concerned if you love the Zergies or you love Dark, but it's not quite all lining up the way that a Zerg boiler is supposed to line up.
Yeah, it's not going to be in the most ideal way because Dark would have liked to have invested in things like a spine crawler or the Baneling nest and the Banelings a bit later on after he's maybe taken advantage of extra drones and things like that. We even see an idle drone actually at the third base. It just kind of goes to show you that Dark is not necessarily super on his game right now. You can find that idle drone right there. Just these little things going to be adding up. But the one nice thing I will say going for Dark is that eventually at least the things he's been investing in are going to come in handy. Well, I want to say that, but the Banelings getting sniped off in the center of the map over here by the Oracles, that's not how Dark wanted that to go.
Is there a shield battery in the natural? No. I have the feeling that Creator should really get a battery. I mean, Creator is hiding a lot of adepts. I mean, this is also just like an ultra late resonating glaive adept attack, because its 3 base is pretty much fully saturated. It's a Phoenix into double Oracle into 17 adepts. Now that Spinecrawler is still going to come in handy, but what is more important than Spinecrawler are Banelings, Dark. You're going to need Banelings, and you're going to need a whole lot more than just 3. Or get a lot of roaches out, but like roaches are kind of going to spawn one by one across 4 different hatcheries. This is just going to get wild.
The Adepts are already shading into the mineral line. There's only those 3 Banelings finished up. A couple more are going to be finishing in a matter of moments, but we see that those Adepts are going to continue to shade on around. Where do you send the Banelings? The Banelings are going to try and follow the Adept chase, try and get the best attack hit possible, but a pre-split there with the shades is going to allow a lot of these Adepts to survive, but not that many of them actually still alive anymore.
Nope, that is true. Dark obviously has been able to crank out a couple of roaches, got the Queens in the right position as well, and these Banelings, they bought some time, and hey, in the end, this attack kind of just dragged out, but it never really got into the sweet spot, and that super early Spinecrawler actually came in handy. Now Creator ends up losing an Oracle. This game is all over the place. Dark has a macro hatchery already in the main base. That is something that he loves in different matchups as well. When you talk to some of the foreign Zergs, they're like, yeah, do you know why he gets the macro hatcher so early? It's not because he's a beast, but it's because he uses all of his queens to spread creep and fight in the front whenever he's getting attacked. So he's floating minerals. Well, the truth is probably somewhere in the middle, but the game will go on. We have 79 drones at this point for Dark and only 60 probes for Creator. That adept attack was so late that it wasn't even like a regular glaive opening anymore. I don't know. I'm pretty confused. I think both players are just really stressed out at the moment and are not exactly sure what's happening in these games either.
Yeah, I think my biggest concern right now is that I think a lot of the time when you're going for an uncommitted version of the Adept attacks, you kind of have your transition points getting set up already a little bit further along. I believe we kind of did have the Robo and there's an Immortal and stuff getting cranked out, but it does feel like Creator's transition points are going to be a little bit slower, just because relative to how much damage he's able to get done, he didn't really set Dark that much further behind with the attack.
No, he didn't, and obviously Dark did have 4 bases very quickly. Dark already working on +2 melee, man. Like, there's not even a Forge on the map, I think, for Creator, or maybe he's got one and he's just not using it. Nope, no Forge at all. Meanwhile, Dark is gonna have like world's quickest +2 here.
This is turning into an all... it just becomes like an all-in then, right? Surely, because, I mean, we do have the Warp Prism coming on out, Immortal coming on forward, and we're going to see all these Banelings get caught. Baneling speed is still a ways away, and these Banelings aren't exactly on creep, so they're going to be taking chip damage.
Just to emphasize everything on I said earlier, when I think the players are confused, if both of them want to attack each other, you know something went wrong in the game. Because one of them is wrong, right? Like, one of them is supposed to be the defender, one of them is supposed to be attacking, but Creator really wants to attack Dark, and Dark really wants to attack Creator, because they both feel like they need to do something. These fortunes go down, but we have a couple of Ravages in the mix, and here come the slow Banelings on creep as they get some very juicy connection with all of these Adepts, and Creator's army just absolutely melts.
And that is going to be that. Dark tying up the series yet again, 2-2, denying Creator the opportunity to end the game with that attack.
That was a strange 10 minutes of StarCraft 2, Robbie, I'll tell you that much. Obviously Created with a super late Glaives attack after a Phoenix and 2 Oracles, like it was at 6 minutes and 40 seconds. Dark had a Spinecrawler that he built 2 minutes prior to that attack. That's not normally how high-level StarCraft 2 works. And at first Dark didn't have that many units out, but the Adepts, they just took a little while to really get going. They had to stay away from that spine and they shaded into the natural. And even though I felt that there was a cute little split with the Adepts, that obviously takes time. And it also forced the Adepts to be even further away from all the drones, and in the end Dark just got enough units out to clean it up. Then Dark wanted to attack Creator, Creator wanted to attack Dark, and this is how it ended.
It was really, really wild. And there's so many little nuances to the reasons why some of those decisions just feel weird. Such as, you know, when you get this early spine crawler and everything, one of the fundamental premises of playing Zerg is you want to get your defenses as late as possible, because the more you invest into economy early on, the more it's going to be paying off. The longer of a period of time, those drones are going to be mining. So if you're able to delay those until the actual attack is coming, that's what you want to do. And that attack came minutes after the spine crawler finishes up. You're talking about the adept splits and everything as well. I think after one of those kind of games, Roddy, as you head into game number 5 of an elimination game, one map decides who's going to be advanced on, who gets knocked out of the tournament. What's going through your mind after playing a game of StarCraft that looked like that?
I don't know. And I don't think these guys know. I think Creator is confused. I think Dark is confused, but obviously very relieved that in the end all went incredibly well for him. Even when he's like morphing 20 Bailings in the center of the map and they are still slow Bailings, they get caught. These things are supposed to be a big deal and it's supposed to be bad for Dark, but then it doesn't turn out to be bad at all, because Creator was just starting his attack and Dark had all the time in the world to get ready and cleaned up an all-in 3-base Protoss attack, even though Creator wanted to go up to 4 bases. That got cancelled, so he was even more all-in than I guess he already would have been, since he didn't have a Forge and he didn't have a Robo Bay or a Templar Archives for some nice storms. And Dark is like, well, cool, like nice force fields, but I've got Ravagers, I've got Banelings, they might be slow, but they're on creep. I think they connect. He's like, okay, I just killed 80 supply and I guess I win the game. So
yeah.
Mindset-wise, I don't know, man, this is just ultra stressful, like even for these guys that have been doing it for such a long time. And you can see it in everything.
Yeah, I think no player is truly immune to the pressure, especially when you're kind of in these tense situations. And it's going to be about how well you can turn that pressure into something that you can use to play even better than before. We're going to be heading on to Royal Blood for map number 5. I think the players are just getting ready to move into that. But Roddy, this series has been filled, I would say, with mostly a lot of really weird timings and aggressions and stuff. Do you think the trend continues, or do you think we finally see these players say, all right, enough is enough, that game was a little too weird for my taste?
Yeah, I don't know. It could just be a stylistic clash, because we do know that Dark is the kind of brutal, swarmy Zerg. It's like, okay, I'll drone up to like 80 something, and from here on out it's attack, 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 and I'm going to overrun you. The way that he likes to do it against Terrans, it's not all that different against Protoss, and I don't think he needs to play like that, because I think of all the Korean Zergs, Dark has always been the best hive tech player of all of them. Like, we saw a couple of brutal games between him and Rogue where he just outclassed Rogue in the late game, and we know that Rogue is, you know, one of the most accomplished StarCraft 2 players of all time, but Dark was simply the much better hive player between the two. But he just likes to be aggressive way before Hive. But then Creator is also a guy that likes to be aggressive and is not very confident in just sitting back and getting some map vision and flying around with a couple of units and not looking for damage. So it's a bit of a stylistic clash, I think, what makes for these bizarre games.
Well, we're going to be moving into the decider map. One map remaining in this best of 5. Down here in the bottom left-hand side of the map, the red Zerg player from Dragon Phoenix Gaming. He is Dark.
Will it be an all-Dragon Phoenix Gaming quarterfinal, or will it be this man making an all-PvP quarterfinal as the winner of this series moves on to play against Hero? This is Creator. Maybe he found that Rainer playlist.
Mumbling to himself and giving himself some advice.
I can see Creator vibing to some Italian rap music.
You think so? You know what? I could dig it. If he get some good friends in high places there with Rainer, maybe. That's an interesting strategy. I don't know. I will say his soundtrack was not received as well by the community as everyone was hoping it would.
The hype around the playlist was a lot bigger than the actual playlist.
That is very, very true.
I mean, Rainer is an amazing StarCraft 2 player, but the other day he asked me if I knew 50 Cent in the club. I said, yes, Rainer. I've been to high school.
You heard about this song I heard from like 45 years ago?
He's like, this album is sick, man. I was like, yes.
It's retro.
It's classical music.
Classical music, yeah. All right. Well, we're going to be hopping into this game here. It's going to be on Royal Blood. A lot of aggression coming out from both of these players. We already see small little things. Dark actually taking the forward hatchery. His Creator's been loving going for those kind of hatchery blocks. And while Dark seems like he'll go for the natural when he can, seems like Creator's not going to allow him that opportunity this time.
Nope. Royal Blood, obviously a pretty big, wide open map as well. It's excellent for some of those +2 melee Baneling run-bys. And that is one thing I do want to give Dark kudos for last game. His upgrades were incredibly quick. +1 didn't even really come that much into play. I think it helped the Lynx a few times in some little skirmishes, but it was obviously mostly about being able to get access to +2 so quickly. That would have made it a very difficult game for Creator. And yeah, in the end, that wasn't even really the difference maker either. The game was just all over the place. Creator is once more going with the Stargate. And to focus on the positive, I do think he's done a great job in keeping the Oracles alive, right? How many PVZs haven't we casted of world-class Protoss players where we start our regular speech? Finding damage is awesome, but keeping them alive is more important. And right when we say that, Queens pick off an Oracle. Other than when in Game 4, obviously, the attack went wrong a little bit. I think Creator was doing a lot of things correctly with the Oracles, and I see a couple of extra links on the production tab. I do hope those are the only links. I assume these are safety links for the Adepts. That's okay.
Well, Adepts on the other side of the map, and it looks like more drones get fired up behind it, so it seems like it's most likely just the safety links for now.
What a flying start, though. 2 drones, Adept alive, deals with a couple of links in his own main base, and I don't think a single probe went down. Perhaps 1 probe has fallen in this game. Can we take a look at that? Nope. And that's a pretty perfect start for Creator. Can be upset over that one.
Yeah, gonna be definitely a nice start. And like you were actually talking about those Oracles and just the value, we've also seen whenever Dark has gotten aggressive, the value those Oracles provide. I mean, this series has actually been a really great example of how important it is to keep those Oracles alive and how important it is to try and fend back and keep an eye out on what your opponent is going to be up to. Now, it is going to be another one of these Void Ray follow-ups after that first Oracle.
I mean, earlier I said I don't think we're going to see multiple Void Rays because it's kind of fallen out of fashion, but Creator clearly wants to build multiple Void Rays, and they're actually quite useful against that Dropalord invasion of the Zerg player. I always think of Nerd Show, by the way, whenever I see all these roaches and Hydras being dropped into a main base of 8 speed Dropalords.
I think it's the last time it was actually acceptable in the meta to do it.
Yeah. To be fair to Nerd Show, he was very good with it.
Oh, absolutely. I think he was well known for it for a reason because he succeeded with it.
Once more, good Oracle play, and even when there were no drones to kill in the natural, he picked off a little bit of larva. This is a very clean start for Creator. So we had Oracle, Void Ray Oracle. That Void Ray is supposed to obviously chase down that Overlord, and that is exactly what is happening right now on the other side of the map. Prismatic Alignment has been activated. This is a bit annoying if you're Dark, because one of the main reasons why Protoss players love going Stargate as well in this matchup is that for Zerg, it's difficult to scout. This spore is not quite done yet, and the Oracles don't need a lot of time to get a couple of drones. As 3 workers falling, make it 4. Oracle gets out of there. Phenomenal start for Creator.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, I was commending how Dark was so good at positioning his queens to deflect the Oracles in some of those earlier games. But one of the downsides is if you're spreading your queens out quite like that, it sometimes means if you're out of position, then maybe one of your middle lines only has a spore. It doesn't have any queens because the queens are just spread around.
To Adept, say hello to this drone, and that drone is not going to fulfill its lifelong dream of becoming a hatchery. It will at least give Dark the heads up that there are 2 Adepts sharking around, looking to shade into a mineral line. Just look at the map vision right now. I love that Void Ray is going to push back the creep. We've got the Adept slowing down a base. We've got an Oracle slowing down a potential base in the top left side. More Adepts roaming around. We normally see ZVP as the matchup where Zerg has all the map control in the world. Right now, it feels like it's the complete opposite. We have flipped the script. It's Creator who's got all the map vision, and Dark is kind of just chilling on his creep.
Yeah. Finally, a couple of Lings managed to make their way across the map and are able to pick off a single one of the Lings. There are a handful of drones with these Lings. I don't think that they know what their actual job was.
Maybe he's just keeping them there because he felt he was fully saturated and he felt he couldn't go up to bases yet. Just taking a look at the first-person view of Dark, and now you guys can see in first person how painful it is to deal with Oracles. Can these queens finally get one of them? Queen from the main base. Is there a sweet spot? There absolutely should be one. Will there be an Oracle falling? Yes. 1 queen from downtown. Finally something going Dark's way.
Yeah, a lot of things have just been going terribly for Dark so far throughout this game. Adept's going to be shading on forward into 2 of these bases at the same time. Lings gets around on the north side. The south side, it looks like these Adepts are going to start focus firing down workers, but that's 6 workers between the Oracle and the Adepts to pick off those units.
Remember what I said in the very beginning of this series before we hopped into the first game? Creator is capable of making a couple of Oracles, rolling around with a few Adepts, and then just playing double Robo and going into that Colossus style. And I have the feeling that that is what we are going to see here. It could, of course, be Disruptors too, but since we're dropping a Templar Archives and we've got a Forge, I kind of feel that Colossus would make a whole lot sense. Colossus are also better against Zerglings and Banelings than Disruptors are. I'd say at least at first, if you have very few units. I think I like where this game is going for Creator. He's got an Observer out on the map as well. That Tumor will get denied by this Void Ray. And slowly but steady, he's finding more Void Rays, or he's finding more value out of that single Void Ray. One upgrade that is very, very important for Creator is Extended Thermal Lens. And we have seen it. This is a stressful series for these guys. We've seen a couple of mistakes that we don't normally see at this level. He needs to start firing up that upgrade, Fear Dragon.
I think that possibly might be one of the most forgotten upgrades in the entire game, Kev. It is going to be an important one, though, like you were saying, especially if we are going to be moving into that kind of mid-game stage. A couple of Adepts are trying to get additional damage done. God, I just love how much damage Creator has been able to get done with just the Adepts and the Oracles. They have continuously found little bits and pieces of damage. Not tons, just little bits every time.
Looking at maybe 20 drones in total so far. Did we get there yet?
22.
22 drones in total. Colossus number 1 is out. Colossus number 2 is on the way. Or actually number 2 is out, and he does fire up Extended Thermal Lens. And I think right now, this one is relatively straightforward for Creator. We macro, we macro, we macro. You look at the production tab, he obviously has a very good idea on how far along the tech is of Dark. And once Creator is around like 170-ish supply, that's when he moves out. Couple of Colossus, a lot of Gateway units. I think there are a few Immortals in the mix. We queue up a War Prism. He already has one actually, because he's been arresting obviously with these Adepts. At first he defends, and around 170, 180 supply, Creator needs to start moving to the other side of the map, because of course he wants to fight a Dark that does not have access to those high-tech units yet.
Those Phoenix are such an interesting choice as well. I'm curious, is that just for just keeping an eye out on the army and, I don't know, killing off the Overseer or something?
What is it? 2 Phoenixes?
Yeah.
Maybe a bit paranoid about Mudas.
Yeah, possibly.
Had one, but maybe wasn't quite sure yet what he was going up against. He didn't see a lot of gas units initially, so I think it was more like just in case you're going Mudas. +2 melee is 10 seconds away from finishing up, as Mapu is showing us. And we've got a lot of Banelings morphing. Can he get those Oracles? I want to see if he got the Oracles, actually. I think he did. Did he just kill the Oracles with... Oh my goodness, Dark killed the Oracles with the Ravagers. Right when we took a look at these Banelings, that was a big play. Now all these Banelings come in from the right side. And is that the turning moment that Dark was looking for?
He is going to already find 18 workers. So many Banelings still left alive as well. They're going to continue to chase after those probes, and they are going to be heading straight over to the Natural. The Immortals going to be big body blockers to prevent these Banelings from making their way in. And that is going to put an end to the damage with 19 workers is definitely something that Dark should feel pretty decent about.
Creator should not get too intimidated by this. He kind of needs to go, man, because I don't think that life is going to be a whole lot better than this at the moment. You're within 20-30 army supply. You've got +2 weapons finishing up. I think he's quite mortified after losing these probes, losing the Oracles. But this is the moment where I think the Protoss army is going to do a lot better than the Zerg army. Even if he ends up losing one of the bases, the longer he waits, the more likely it is he's going to have to win a completely different game. And that is the game against Vipers, as one Colossus actually just gets picked off by Roaches and Ravagers. Creator's having a hard time right now keeping up with the speed of Dark.
It is going to be so difficult. There was maybe a little window after 35 or so Banelings get utilized and basically suicide in for the workers, but that window is gone. Dark is already at that max out point again. Adrenal Glands on the way, +3 missile or melee attacks is also on the way, and Dark is continuing to try and find ways to buy time. He's looking for opportunities to run to the main base, but those Immortals have been staying at home. Problem is, everything's staying at home.
Yeah, Creator right now just says, you know what, I'm just going to try to defend for a little bit, and I'm going to just get a terrifying Protoss army. And even if you get a Viper or 2, I'll figure out a way to deal with this. I've got a couple of High Templars. I could potentially feedback these bad boys. Dark shows up. Adrenal Gland's not quite done yet, but that is a lot of links, and this many links can actually surround an Archon and pick it off. A couple of probes fall, and I think most likely this Nexus will fall too. The Immortals are still just chilling on the high ground, and that Nexus melts. Let's take a look at that other fight as well, as I was taking a look at the fight in the top left by the looks of it, but at least Creator was able to keep the triangle base alive, but he lost probes and he lost the Nexus.
That is going to be really brutal for him to deal with, and It's a tough question now. Does Creator say it's go time? He's only sitting at 156 supply, but he's lost so much of his economy. He cannot wait around. It feels like he is going to start moving out across the map. Already using a couple of force fields, though.
His army is good enough. Like, his army, I think, is absolutely good enough. He's got 8 Immortals, 4 Archons, 2 Colossus. I think there is potential for Creator to end the game here because there are still no Vipers. And I think it's so damn difficult. How are you going to get Roaches on top of Colossus when there are this many Immortals in the mix? As Dark is ending up losing a couple of these units. He's just all-out counter-attacking. Creator has gone for the full wall off. This is it. I think in the next minute we'll find out who is making it into the quarterfinals.
Creator not able to prevent Dark from getting into his main base. The wall gets knocked down, but he is continuing to snipe off hatcheries on the other side of the map. He is continuing to pick off these units, and his army does not look like it's an army that's going to be going down easily.
The thing is, though, Creator's going to have to recall eventually, man, because these Lings are +3 Lings with Adrenal Glands, and he recalls half his army, but he loses the Nexus. Oh no, Creator, I think the dreams are falling apart here. He has lost each and every single base. He had the better army, the army that could have actually won the fight straight up, but Dark says, I'm not fighting your army, mate. I'm counter-attacking, and you can see it in the chair. Creator is devastated. He is going to lose each and every single building, and it seems that it will be Dark who's moving into the quarterfinals to meet his teammate Hero.
Every single one of these buildings, these are the last lifelines there, but Dark takes out the last building. He eliminates Creator, not only from the game, but from the tournament.